AITA for making my girlfriend move out the same night she left me without warning? I'm 33 years old. I'm not rich, but I live comfortably. Blair, who is 28, seemed perfect, smart, funny, and she apparently shared my financial values. During our first year, we split everything 50-50, dinners, movies, gas, groceries. She insisted on paying her share and even suggested cooking at home to save money. I thought I had found my financial soulmate. Looking back, that was clearly her audition period. In the second year, a reasonable suggestion came up. Since you earn more, why don't we split expenses proportionally? It seemed fair to me. I started by paying 65% of the bills. A few months later, it was 75%, then 80%, then 85%. By the third year, I was funding almost our entire life, while she saved every penny to launch her business. The expensive apartment she insisted on renting in Denver's Lodo district was on my dime. Her new car, when her old one needed repairs, was also my purchase. Her phone, gym membership, insurance, food, dates, trips, I covered it all. But I could afford it, and she constantly talked about our future, marriage, kids, the house we would buy together in the suburbs. She moved into my place temporarily to save more, and that temporary arrangement lasted for 2 years. I'm not naive. She only knew about my household expenses account, where I deposited $3,400 a month. She believed that was my entire net income and had no clue about my true financial situation. And then there was Daphne. Blair's best friend was a walking factory of red flags. In her 30s, she never held a job for more than 11 months and was always involved in get-rich-quick schemes, crypto, dropshipping, multi-level marketing supplements. She wore fake designer clothes and drove a leased BMW, clearly behind on payments, always talking about business deals that never materialized. Blair defended her to the death. Daphne is just building her personal brand. She has an incredible vision. She's like family. Yes, a family member who texts you at midnight asking for urgent loans and needs you to give her a ride because her car was repossessed. I tolerated her because I trusted Blair and didn't want to be the controlling boyfriend who forbids her from having friends. That misplaced trust almost cost me everything I had built. 4 months ago, her behavior began to change. It started with small things, but they became impossible to ignore. She grew more secretive with her phone, taking calls in another room and closing chats when I walked in. She claimed she was staying up late working on business plans for her consulting firm. Meetings with Daphne for joint projects became more frequent. She also started repeating that our lifestyle wasn't sustainable. Honey, the rent on this apartment is stretching our budget too thin. Of course, our budget when it was really mine. I was covering 90% of everything. I suggested she could contribute a bit more, since her salary had increased. She did not like that idea at all. I'm investing everything I can into our shared future, she said, annoyed. Right, that shared future she was planning while preparing to move in with another woman. 3 weeks ago, she came back from one of her strategic meetings with Daphne, beaming with excitement. She had the energy of someone who thinks they're about to successfully manipulate a person without them noticing. She had me sit on the couch, the same one we chose together after weeks of price comparing, and dropped her big announcement with a rehearsed smile. I have incredible news that will change everything for us. Daphne's roommate is moving out soon, and she offered me the available room. I stared at her, hoping it was a joke. It wasn't. Think about it logically, she said enthusiastically. Daphne's rent is only $900, while I pay $1,400. Here I could save $500 a month and reach our goal for the house much faster. I noticed how she talked about our goals while planning to move in with another woman. The math was particularly interesting, as she claimed to contribute $1,400 monthly to rent, but conveniently ignored that I covered utilities, internet, groceries, and practically every other household expense. Besides, she added with a carefully practiced casualness, Daphne really needs a reliable person to help with the rent, and this arrangement allows us to help a close friend while making smart financial decisions for our future. There it was, her true motivation, completely exposed. Daphne needed financial help with her rent, and Blair had offered my resources to cover that need without even consulting me. This was what she expected to happen according to her grand master plan. She would move into Daphne's apartment. I would continue paying for her phone, her car insurance, her health insurance, and probably send her extra money because I would miss her and want to maintain the connection. She would use that money to subsidize Daphne's lifestyle while they played house and lived their best life. I would function as her personal ATM, funding their little experiment. And when Daphne's latest venture inevitably failed or she got bored of the arrangement, she would simply come back to me, her safety net, with my stable income and savings. The plan was impressively calculated in its selfishness and manipulation. I could visualize the whole scheme laid out like a project timeline, complete with contingency plans. She watched me closely, clearly expecting an immediate argument so she could paint me as the controlling, possessive boyfriend. Or perhaps she hoped I would beg her not to leave, so she could feel powerful and desired. Instead, I smiled at her calmly and replied, "That works out absolutely perfectly." The confusion that spread across her face was priceless. "Perfect," Blair stammered, completely thrown off her practice script. "Yes," I said serenely. "The timing is perfect. I was just waiting for the ideal opportunity to talk to you about something important, and this new development resolves everything wonderfully." Now she looked genuinely worried and insecure. I leaned back with a thoughtful expression and added, "You know, my construction company has been expanding aggressively into the Phoenix metro area this past year. They offered me the lead role for the entire new regional office there. It was a complete fabrication, but I lied just like I manage projects, with method, conviction, and attention to detail. The compensation package is incredible, a $150,000 base salary, full relocation assistance, and company stock options. I was considering turning it down because I didn't want to disrupt what we're building here." Her face cycled through confusion, surprise, worry, and calculation, like a malfunctioning slot machine. "But if you're making a strategic decision to optimize our financial situation and accelerate our savings goals, then I should also make an equally smart career move. I can accept the position in Phoenix. You'll save money living with Daphne. We'll both be making calculated decisions that benefit our long-term objectives." You're really moving to Phoenix?" she asked. "The position officially starts in 6 weeks," I replied. "I'll need to find an apartment, get settled in the city, and build relationships with contractors and suppliers. I'll probably be there for at least 2.5 years while we solidify the regional operation." I opened my laptop and showed her a completely fake offer letter, created with my company's official letterhead and digital signature template. It took me about 4 hours to make it look totally authentic and professional. "And what about our relationship?" she asked with obvious concern. "What about us?" "This arrangement is perfect," I answered calmly. "You'll save a lot of money living with Daphne. I'll maximize my earning potential in a new market. We'll reach our goal of buying a house sooner than planned." I could hear the mental gears grinding as she realized this outcome was not part of her master plan. "When I get back from Phoenix, we'll have saved enough for one of those beautiful houses in the hills you love so much." She spent the next 5 hours desperately trying to backtrack. "Maybe living with Daphne isn't the best financial decision. Maybe you shouldn't take the Phoenix job right now. We could stay here and find other ways to save." But I used her own logic against her every time. She wanted smart decisions. This was the smartest one possible. She wanted to save money. This arrangement saved thousands. She wanted to help Daphne. We couldn't abandon a friend in need. Besides, I added with complete sincerity, "You said yourself that Daphne needs reliable help with the rent. We can't leave a close friend in a tough spot when we have the power to help her, right?" She was completely trapped by her own arguments and couldn't escape without admitting her true intentions. That night, she called Daphne, and I could easily overhear her excitement from the other room. "This is perfect, B. Chase will be in Phoenix for over 2 years. We can finally have the place to ourselves and live our best lives while he's still sending you money. Yes, I'm sure you and Daphne can live whatever life you want." A week later, Blair moved all her belongings to Daphne's apartment. She posted carefully curated stories on social media with phrases like exciting new adventures and embracing positive changes, being extremely careful never to mention that her boyfriend had supposedly moved to another state for work. Meanwhile, I moved my things into a storage unit and rented an excellent apartment in another part of the same city. Same metropolitan area, different neighborhood, a place where they would never think to look for me or run into me by accident. It was time to implement phase 2 of my master plan, total financial independence. Blair had been on my family phone plan for the last 20 months, saving about $80 a month compared to an individual plan. I called her that night with my perfectly prepared explanation. Honey, I wanted to give you a heads up that I had to switch phone companies for the move to Phoenix. The construction firm has a corporate agreement with another provider that offers better coverage in Arizona. You're going to need to get your own plan. What? But we still have 18 months left on the contract, she protested. I had to break it anyway for the relocation. The company has very strict policies on employee communications and requires all management staff to use their preferred provider for security reasons. She was upset, but she couldn't argue with the logic. After all, she was supposed to want to be financially independent now, right? Blair drove a 2020 Nissan Sentra, a perfectly decent car financed in my name because her credit score was terrible. During our next call, I told her casually, I need to talk about your car. I'm going to have to take care of that. A long silence. What do you mean, take care of it? I can't keep making payments on a car that's just sitting in another state while I'm getting settled in Phoenix. The most logical thing is to sell it, and you can find something more suited to your budget. But I need transportation to get to work every day. I'm sure you'll find a solution. Maybe Daphne can give you a ride, or public transit is eco-friendly and affordable. The panic in her voice was music to my ears. Chase, you can't just sell my car without warning me. Technically, it's my car, you just drove it, Blair. And since we're both committed to making smart financial decisions, this is the smartest one for me. I sold the car 3 days later for an excellent price that went straight into my house fund. With the car sold, I also eliminated the auto insurance. But I still had to deal with the health insurance, as she was covered under my company's policy as a domestic partner. The benefits department needs updated documentation since you changed your address, I explained. They require proof of current cohabitation to maintain your coverage. You can't just tell them we're still living together. That would be insurance fraud, Blair. I'm not going to risk my career or my reputation. She had to find coverage through her own company's plan, paying $240 more a month for a much worse policy. She had additional credit cards linked to my accounts for household expenses and emergencies. I canceled all of them without notice. That afternoon, I received a frantic message. My cards were declined at the grocery store. Oh, right, I replied. I had to close those accounts because of the move. Banking regulations are very complicated when you're working across different jurisdictions. It was a complete lie, but she had no way of checking. In just 4 weeks, Blair went from having practically all her expenses covered to being completely responsible for everything on her $39,000 annual salary. The comfortable lifestyle she had taken for granted vanished overnight. The most beautiful part of this strategy was that she couldn't complain or protest without openly admitting that she had been financially dependent on me while planning to live with another woman. Meanwhile, Daphne started to discover reality. Her new roommate wasn't the financial contributor she'd hoped for. Instead of bringing in money and stability, Blair was broke, stressed, and constantly crying about her new financial responsibilities. I know all these details because she started calling me with increasing frequency and desperation. At first, it was just to see how I was doing in Phoenix, then to talk about our relationship, and finally to hint at requests for money. I'm having some unexpected budget issues this month. Maybe you could help me with a few essential expenses until I get on my feet. I'm sorry, honey, I would reply sweetly. Every dollar I earn here is going straight into our down payment fund for the house. That's the whole point of these temporary sacrifices we're both making. The house fund, of which she would never see a single cent, but she didn't need to know that yet. 7 weeks after Blair moved in with Daphne, I received a call that revealed just how spectacularly their grand plan was failing. The call wasn't from Blair, it was from Daphne. Hey, Chase. We need to have a serious conversation. It was the first time Daphne had ever contacted me directly. Usually, all communication went through Blair. What's going on? I asked, feigning concern. Look, Blair is going through a really tough transition. She's constantly stressed about money, and she misses you a lot. Maybe you could help her out with some basic bills until she recovers financially. The woman's audacity left me breathless. She was seriously asking me to finance her roommate who had moved in with her as part of a scheme against me. That's a shame to hear, I replied sympathetically. But wasn't that the whole point of her moving in with you? to save money and improve her financial situation. I thought you two had worked out all the practical details. Yeah, well, it's turning out to be more complicated and expensive than we calculated. Plus, she's used to a certain standard of living, you know. The standard of living that I had been paying for entirely. Perfect. Besides, Daphne continued, almost begging, she misses you a lot and gets really emotional. Maybe you could come visit for a weekend. The reality behind all this was simple. Blair wasn't contributing anything to the household expenses because she was broke. Stressed out, she was probably taking it out on Daphne, and their fantasy of living together while I funded everything from another state was crumbling in the face of economic reality. I'd love to help. I lied with total conviction, but I'm barely staying afloat here. New city, new apartment, everything costs a lot more than I budgeted for. Well, maybe you could help with small things, like her phone bill or some money for food, Daphne suggested. Daphne, I'm putting every spare dollar into the house fund so Blair and I can buy a place when I get back. That's the entire plan. She understood and agreed to that when we decided on this. I could hear her frustration growing. She had expected a roommate with a steady income to help with expenses and instead got a broke, emotionally unstable, and dependent woman. When I hung up, I felt a genuine sense of happiness for the first time in months. Their brilliant plan was devouring itself from the inside out, but the best part was just beginning. Blair's messages became constant and increasingly desperate. I miss you so much. This distance is harder than I imagined. I can't wait for you to come home. Then the direct request started. I'm having trouble with my budget this month. Could you lend me $700? My laptop died and I can't afford a new one for work. Daphne is being unreasonable about the bills. Could you send me money for my share? My response was identical every time. I'm sorry, honey. Every cent is going to the house fund. We have to stay disciplined and focused on our goals. Her messages went from desperate to nearly pleading. I made a terrible mistake moving in here. I want to come home immediately. Can you at least come for a weekend? I need to see you in person. This thing with Daphne, it's not working. We need to talk urgently. Here, I made my first tactical error. I got too confident. Instead of maintaining my patient, detached tone, I decided to push harder. I thought you said Daphne was like family. I texted back. What's the problem exactly? She's just completely different from what I expected. She's not responsible with money, and I've ended up paying for more than my share. Absolutely beautiful. She was finally admitting that Daphne was a financial burden instead of a help. Well, I replied, you made a commitment to help her get back on her feet. You can't just abandon a close friend because things get tough. Using her own guilt and manipulation tactics against her was delicious. But then Blair did something I did not expect and was not prepared to handle. On a Thursday afternoon, around 6:30 p.m., as I was returning from work, I saw her sitting in my building's lobby. My blood ran cold. She wasn't supposed to know where I lived. According to my story, I was in Phoenix. We need to talk, right now, she said, standing up. She looked terrible. Deep, dark circles under her eyes. Her hair thrown into a messy ponytail, wearing a huge sweatshirt and old pants. Nothing like the impeccable, radiant woman I had dated for 3 years. My mind was racing. How had she found my location? How long had she known I never moved to Phoenix? What are you doing here, Blair? I thought you were settled in with Daphne. Drop the ridiculous act, Chase. You never went to Phoenix. I felt my stomach drop. She followed me silently into the elevator and up to my apartment. I called your office pretending there was a family emergency and asked to speak with you immediately. They transferred me directly to your extension, which is apparently still in the exact same building as always. Blair started crying immediately. These weren't elegant movie tears, but ugly, desperate sobs from someone whose entire world was falling apart. Why are you doing this to me? She cried through her sobs. I know you're angry about the Daphne thing, but this level of cruelty is completely unnecessary. I sat across from her and remained silent. Sometimes the best strategy is to let the other person talk until they reveal everything. I was wrong about everything. Okay, moving in with Daphne was a total mistake. She's not the person I thought she was. What do you mean exactly? I asked. She's a total loser, Chase. A complete waste of space and time. She hasn't paid rent in 4 months. I'm covering absolutely everything. Rent, utilities, food, internet, everything. And she just sits around playing video games all day and talking about her next big business idea that will never happen. The information was delicious, but I kept my face neutral. I thought she had money and resources, she continued desperately. She always dressed well, drove that BMW, talked about her investments, but it was all fake. Her car was repossessed 3 weeks ago, and she owes money to literally everyone. How unfortunate, I replied calmly. But you made a commitment to help her succeed. No, she screamed furiously. I made a commitment to you, to our relationship, and our future. I thought if I saved money by living with Daphne, we could reach our goal for the house faster and build something real. The historical revisionism she was attempting was impressive. She was rewriting the past in real time to make herself the victim. And now you're punishing me by pretending you moved to Phoenix and cutting off all the financial support I need. Your financial support? You know exactly what I mean. The money you help me with for basic expenses. Blair, you moved out specifically to be more independent. I'm just helping you achieve the goal you said you wanted for yourself. She looked at me as if I were speaking another language. You're being ridiculous. We're supposed to be a couple that works together. Couples don't make major decisions without consulting each other first. This was all about saving money for our future. No, it wasn't, I replied. The room fell silent. She looked at me, confused and scared. What do you mean? I took out my phone and opened the voice recorder app. I had been recording the entire conversation since we entered the apartment. Blair, do you love me? Of course I love you. That's why I want to fix all of this. Do you want to marry me? Yes, someday, when we're ready. Do you want to have kids with me? Yes, when we're financially prepared. Then why? I said, leaning toward her. Did you tell Daphne that I was just a temporary safety net until you figured out what you really wanted from life? Her face lost all its color. Why did you tell her you were keeping your options open while we built our joint savings? I never said that. Oh, you didn't? I continued relentlessly. And why did you tell her that if her businesses succeeded, you'd move to California with her? Chase, I don't know what you think you heard, but I didn't hear anything, Blair. I saw the text messages. It was a complete bluff, a total lie, but her reaction confirmed I'd hit the mark. What messages? She stammered. The detailed conversations between you and Daphne planning this whole thing, using my money as a backup while you two figured out your lives. She started crying again, but these were tears of panic, not sadness. It wasn't like that. Daphne, she confused me with what she was saying about our relationship, but I chose you. I'm here because I chose you. No, you're here because Daphne is broke and you need someone to pay your bills. That's not true, she retorted. But we both knew it was. Blair stayed in my apartment for over 4 hours, cycling through tears, apologies, and pleas for me to let her back into my life and my finances. I will pay you back every single cent this has cost you, she promised frantically. I'll get a second job. I'll work weekends. I'll do whatever it takes to fix this. With what money, Blair? You can't even pay your share of the rent with Daphne. I'll find a way. Please, Chase, I swear, I really love you. You love my bank account and my financial stability. That's completely unfair. But it was completely fair, and we both knew it. Finally, she played her last card. Fine. You want the whole truth? Yes, I was confused about our relationship. Yes, Daphne influenced me with her big dreams and ridiculous plans. Yes, I thought maybe there was something better out there. She dried her tears and looked me straight in the eye. But I was completely wrong. Daphne is a loser. Her dreams are garbage. You're the one with the real career, the real money, the real future. I want to be with you. The brutal honesty was almost refreshing. Almost. So, you want to be with me because your plan with Daphne didn't work out? I want to be with you because you're clearly the better man, the richest, the most stable, the most reliable. Exactly the same thing. In the end, I stood up. Blair, I think you should leave. Please, don't do this to me. I literally have nowhere to go. You have Daphne's apartment. I can't afford it without help. I'm going to be evicted in a month. That sounds like a Daphne problem, not a Chase problem. She looked at me in disbelief. Are you really going to let me become homeless? You made your decision, Blair. Now you have to live with the consequences. She left that night, but not before promising me that Daphne would make me pay dearly for abandoning her in her time of need. 2 days later, Daphne called me again. Chase, You need to take Blair back immediately. No, I don't. She's a complete mess. Crying all day, literally. She's not paying rent. She keeps saying you owe her money for emotional damages. I can't deal with this situation anymore. Sounds like you two deserve each other perfectly. I'm serious, Chase. Come and get her. I'll pack all her stuff myself. Daphne, you wanted to play house with my girlfriend. Now you get to live with the consequences. I never really wanted to look. I'll be completely honest with you. Blair told me you were planning to break up with her anyway, that you were just using her temporarily until you found someone better. I thought I was helping her get out of a bad situation. More lies and manipulation, but interesting because they revealed her strategy. She told you I was using her? Yeah. She said you've been distant and cold for months, probably cheating on her. She was scared and needed a backup plan for when you left her. So Blair had told Daphne I was the problem, setting up her exit while playing the innocent victim. Well, Daphne, it seems she manipulated you just like she did me. Come on, she's your problem, not mine. Actually, she's no one's problem anymore. She's an adult. She can take care of herself. I hung up, and, for the first time in many months, I felt truly at peace. 4 days later, I received a text from Blair. Daphne kicked me out. I'm at a cheap motel, but I can only afford it for a few more days. Please help me. I didn't reply. I know you're reading my messages. I just need enough money for a security deposit on an apartment. I promise I'll pay you back. Total silence on my end. I'm going to be homeless because of your ego. I hope you're satisfied. Finally, I'm truly sorry for everything. I ruined everything. I know that now. Can we please just talk? To that message, I did reply. Good luck with everything, Blair. 2 weeks later, her mother called me unexpectedly. Chase, I don't know what happened between you and Blair, but she's in a very bad situation right now. I'm sorry to hear that. She's been staying with different friends, but she's running out of options. She lost her job and can't afford rent anywhere. How unfortunate. She made a mistake, Chase. Whatever happened between you two, she knows she was wrong. Can't you find it in your heart to help her? Did she tell you what her mistake was exactly? A long silence. Did she tell you she moved in with another woman while we were still together? That she planned to use me to pay her friends' bills while she figured out her life? An even longer silence. I thought so. Tell Blair to give you the full, honest story. Then call me back if you still think I should help her. She never called back. 10 weeks later, Daphne called me one last time, but this time she wasn't angry or defiant. She was utterly desperate. Chase, I messed up everything. I'm getting evicted next week. The sheriff is coming with the papers. I have nowhere to go. Tough situation. Look, I know this sounds crazy, but could I borrow some money? Just enough to get caught up on rent. Even in desperation, her audacity was incredible. How much do you need? $5,000. I know it's a lot, but I'll pay you back. I have some big deals about to close. Daphne, you tried to help my girlfriend leave me. What? No. Blair told me you guys had already broken up, that you were just roommates. And you believed that story? Yeah, I thought she was telling the truth. So you thought it was appropriate to help her by encouraging her to move in with you while she was still my partner. It wasn't like that. She needed support, and I was just being a good friend. By convincing her that her life would be better without me. Long silence. Well, maybe I thought she deserved better. She told me you didn't want her anymore, that you were emotionally distant. There it was. Blair had played both of us, telling Daphne I was a bad boyfriend and telling me Daphne was just a friend. Tell me something. Did Blair ever treat you like a true partner? What do you mean? Seriously, in all this time, did she ever contribute equally to the bills? Did she pull her weight? Or did she act like she was entitled to be taken care of? An eternal silence. She said things were complicated, that she needed time to get her business off the ground. While you were covering her share of the rent and expenses, she was going to pay me back when her business. Her business what? The imaginary business that never existed? I could hear her breathing heavily on the other end of the line. Daphne, Blair never cared about you as an equal. You were just her backup plan. And when you couldn't support her, she threw you under the bus and came crawling back to me. That's not true. She wouldn't do that. Ask yourself this. When was the last time Blair paid for anything significant? Rent, utilities, groceries. Absolute silence. She used you exactly like she used me. The only difference is you were naive enough to think it was friendship. I hung up, feeling fully vindicated and at peace. 3 days later, I received a Facebook message from Blair. A long text full of apologies, promises, and lessons learned. At the end, it read, "I know you probably hate me, but Daphne is about to be homeless, and it's partly my fault. Could you just help her this one time? I'll owe you forever." Even at her lowest point, she was still trying to manipulate me into fixing the problems she had created. If you liked it, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.